entire hour tonight. Now, tonight, many Americans are on high alert after a series of suspected mail bombs were sent to several prominent Democrats all across the country. At this hour, nobody knows who is responsible. Let me be clear, and let me reiterate what I've been saying now for a month on this program so many times. Violence, threats, intimidation, it has no place in this country. We are the United States of America. We solve our political differences, which are very acute at this moment, at the ballot box. That would be 13 days from now, without bloodshed. Now, the disturbed individual responsible must be held accountable. And with that said tonight, sadly, we have so many people on the left and in the mainstream media all day rushing to judgment, as usual, to score cheap political points. Many are actually blaming the president, Fox News, talk radio, yours truly. It's a disgrace when just the opposite is true. And we're going to respond to this slander on this program tonight. We'll also point out how Democrats, after weeks of literally calling for incivility and kicking and, getting in people's faces and following them, telling them you're not wanted anywhere anymore, all of a sudden are pretending to be the party of peace. This is hypocrisy at its worst. We'll expose this massive double standard. We'll show you the toxic political environment that many that are complaining today, they themselves fostered in the lead up to these important midterm elections. So sit tight, buckle up. We need the full hour tonight, a lot of ground to cover. We start with our breaking news opening monologue. All right, tonight we have some very disturbing news. Manila envelopes, each containing crude-looking pipe bombs, targeted several high-profile Democrats all across the country. Now, these packages were addressed to former President Obama, Hillary Clinton, Eric Holder, George Soros, and reportedly even Maxine Waters. Another package intended for CIA Director John Brennan was addressed to CNN's headquarters in New York. Now, all the packages listed Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz in the return address. Thankfully, none of these devices exploded and no one was injured. And at this hour, a full-scale federal investigation is on to hunt down whatever maniac would be responsible for what is a despicable act. Now, you have heard me say over and over and over on this show, but I will repeat it one more time. Violence, threats, intimidation has no place in politics, no place in this country. And what we saw today is the work of pure evil. This is an act of terror. And I feel terrible for anybody who is threatened today. It's wrong, period. Now, I have had many, many threats myself over the years. I've had white powder sent to my office. One of my employees spent, 9 hours in isolation, and things even far worse than that I'm not going to talk about. My heart goes out to anyone ever threatened, anybody today, anybody tonight. No conservative that I know and would ever support this horrible act. No matter how strongly you disagree with someone's beliefs, everyone in this country deserves safety and security. I've said that throughout my career. Earlier today, President Trump immediately condemned this reprehensible act. Here's what he said. Take a look.
The safety of the American people is my highest and absolute priority. The full weight of our government is being deployed to conduct this investigation and bring those responsible for these despicable acts to justice. We will spare no resources or expense in this effort. And I just want to tell you that in these times, we have to unify. We have to come together and send one very clear, strong, unmistakable message that acts or threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States of America.
No place in this country. The president's right. Despite not knowing who is responsible for these mail bombs today, we had so many people rushing to judgment. The media, the left, Democrats, all trying to score cheap political points and a political victory on this. All day as this story was unfolding, they have no facts, immediately assigning blame to their political rivals, especially President Trump. In a joint statement, even Schumer and Pelosi saying President Trump's words ring hollow until he reverses his statements that condone acts of violence. CNN's fake news president, Jeff Zucker, he's blaming Donald Trump. There is a complete lack of understanding at the White House about the seriousness of their continued attacks on the media. Even when they lie, you're not allowed to call out lies. Blaming the president for an act of violence from an unknown perpetrator seems beyond shameful that a network that claims to put facts first, and of course the anti-Trump vitriol continued every minute, every hour, every second of the entire day. Take a look.
Let's remember, we have a president who has talked for a couple of years now about imprisoning his political rival in Hillary Clinton, who has encouraged violence against the media.
The president and his allies, they need to dial down the political rhetoric. They are making people less safe. They are making journalists less safe.
It is hard to suspend belief and not see the context of what is occurring today with a president who has repeatedly suggested that the press is the enemy of the people.
We are in an era now where violence seems to have license by the President of the United States.
If you look at who they've targeted so far, it's almost like they're following Donald Trump's Twitter feed.
Fox News hasn't gotten a bomb yet.
Words are words. The president, by the way, was not the only target of the blame game by your left-wing media trying to score cheap political points. Fox News, talk radio, yours truly were actually vilified. One particularly uninformed leftist pretending to be a reporter at NBC tweeting, quote, "There will be a rush to pin these mail bombs on extremists," talking points from fringe websites and communities on Facebook and Reddit and so on. But Soros, Obama, and the Clintons have been viewed as the root of all evil on talk radio and Fox News for over a decade. Now, before this abject idiot tries to blame me, Fox News Talk Radio, for the acts of clearly a disturbed individual who we don't know who it is yet, maybe they should watch an episode of this show or listen to my radio show, because night after night, for a month, I have called for calm. I have condemned these confrontations, these mobs, these violent acts on the left and right. I don't assign blame based on political expediency, as clearly you and your colleagues are. When a Bernie Sanders supporter, remember, we all watched, tried to assassinate Republican lawmakers on a baseball field, nearly successfully killing someone that I like personally and consider a friend, House Majority Whip Steve Scalise, I didn't blame Bernie Sanders. Nor should anybody have blamed Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders didn't tell that evil maniac to kill Republicans. You might remember this. I'm not blaming Bernie Sanders.
No, of course
Bernie Sanders supporters.
No.
This was one nut. Remember the Bernie Sanders supporter? The one that targeted Republicans at baseball practice, leaving Congressman Steve Scalise fighting for his life? Well, was the media blaming Democrats for that? No. And by the way, they shouldn't have. And I don't blame Bernie either. Nobody should have blamed Bernie. Political disagreements, even political battling back and forth, they're not supposed to be marching orders for deranged individuals. When President Trump, this show, when we rightly call out and expose the left for their hypocrisy, and we will do more of it in a minute, or deep state corruption, or the fake news media for reporting fake news almost every night, that's not inciting violence. I'm saying just the opposite. This is about going to the ballot box. That's where we settle our political differences. I didn't love it that Obama won twice. Didn't like it at all. But America goes on. And I said many times during his presidency, we've got to protect our president. Now, the same goes for anyone in the mainstream media, including those who trash Trump supporters and Democrats, or who bash conservatives day after day, night after night, 24/7. There's hardly a word in the dictionary, if it's negative, that I haven't been called at some point in my career, or that they haven't used against the president. Take a look.
The mobs that I see are the people who go to Trump rallies and laugh when Donald Trump mimics the testimony of an alleged victim of sexual assault. The mobs I see are the people who cheer when Donald Trump trots out the word "I'm a nationalist" and tells people to ignore the negative connotations, the lessons of history about what that's associated with.
He knows that in America the word nationalist usually follows the word white nationalist. That's what it's meant in the 21st century. Trump voters understand, David Duke understands, that Donald Trump has to leave the word white out of his use of the word nationalist.
You hold down the woman while the rapist is raping her, and you didn't rape her. Are you a rapist? I mean, let's cut the BS.
Tens of millions of people voted for him after he showed his cards for years.
But are you suggesting that they're racist, or
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
The people who vote, all the people who voted for Donald Trump are racist.
Yes.
You no longer say Trump's the bad guy. If you vote for Trump, you're the bad guy. If you vote for Trump, you are ripping children from parents' arms.
Now, while I deplore that kind of rhetoric, the left is not responsible for the sad actions of a lunatic. Now, sadly, there are crazy, deranged people from all backgrounds, all political points of view. Recently, Republican Senator, remember Susan Collins? She was the target when a suspicious package purportedly containing ricin was sent to her home. 3 weeks ago, packages were sent to President Trump. General Mattis, FBI Director Wray, CIA Director Gina Haspel, allegedly having ricin in them. Another suspicious parcel targeted Donald Trump Jr. and his family. His wife went to the hospital. Today, Don Jr. tweeted, quote, as someone whose family has directly been the victim of these mail threats, I condemn whoever did this, regardless of party or ideology. This crap has to stop, and I hope they end up in jail for a long time. Amen. So do I. Because I know from personal firsthand experience, it is a horrible thing to go through. What's happening to many people tonight, it has happened sadly many times to me in my career. We have been saying for months that the rhetoric we're seeing, the mobs we're seeing in this country, that everybody needs to calm down. Rand Paul said it. I've said it. Before someone gets hurt or worse, I've been saying it nightly. Recently, we reported that Republican Congressman Kevin McCarthy's office, well, they threw a boulder through the window. And night after night, we show you what? Disturbing video. Republicans stalked, harassed, kicked out of restaurants, and worse, with kids and children even involved. Take a look.
I hate that crude. I hate that crude.
Excuse me. Beto is way hotter than you do.
We believe survivors.
We call on you to end family separation and abolish our...
Abolish ICE! Abolish ICE!
Leave my husband alone. Why are you separating families? Why did you leave my husband alone? I'm not trying to disrespect you, but why is he separating? Henry Kissinger, on behalf of the International Criminal Court, you are a war criminal. You have committed genocide against the peoples of the world. Yeah, brother. Yeah, you little white little. Really? Yeah. You're a white little whitey, aren't you?
Now, while we on this program have been constantly now condemning this unacceptable behavior night after night, Democrats, the liberal media, they're nowhere to be found. They have been silent. They've been missing in action. When women are kicked out of restaurants with their kids and out of movie theaters, and Senator Cruz can't eat dinner with his wife Heidi, and we saw what happened this weekend to Henry Kissinger and Mitch McConnell. And the media and fake news, CNN even lectured us, you can't call that a mob. CNN literally said, you can't call it a mob. Meanwhile, the rhetoric from the left constantly is demonizing their political opponents. They need a big fat mirror themselves tonight to look at how they say things. Take a look.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
Please don't just come here today and then go home. Go to the Hill today. Get up and please get up in the face of some Congress people.
Michelle says that, you know, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them.
Press always asks me, don't I wish I were debating him? No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym. That's what I wish.
Remember Madonna? I think an awful lot of blowing up the White House or holding up severed heads of the President of the United States. Oh, I didn't see a whole lot of criticism on the left. A little, not a lot. Yesterday, former VP Joe Biden even compared the president to George Wallace. Today, he's singing a much different tune, tweeting, this country has got to come together. Oh, okay, crazy Uncle Joe. You can't go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have an Indian accent. You know, really, we got a lecture from Joe Biden, crazy Uncle Joe? And this is true of many Democrats. Remember Hillary Clinton? What did she say? We can't be civil with Republicans. Remember this?
You cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and or the Senate, That's when civility can start again.
Oh, today now she's singing a different tune after actual criminal acts against Democrats. Oh, it's only if it happens against Democrats. I'm beginning to catch on here. Now she's calling for us all to come together. Take a look.
It is a troubling time, isn't it? And it's a time of deep divisions, and we have to do everything we can to bring our country together.
Really? You said we couldn't be civil. Oh, that was last week. Oh, I understand how that works. Now, we can't, of course, forget about Congresswoman Maxine Waters repeatedly calling for Republicans to be stalked, harassed, confronted in grocery stores, department stores, gas stations. Tell them they're not wanted anywhere anymore. That was a couple of weeks ago. Take a look.
You have members of your cabinet that are being booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who saying no peace, no sleep. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
They're not welcome anywhere anymore. Oh, that was then. That was a couple of weeks ago. Now Congresswoman Waters has issued a statement today that reads, I unequivocally condemn any and all acts of violence and terror. What happened to get a crowd, follow them into department stores, grocery stores, gas stations, tell them they're not wanted anywhere anymore? All these networks all day, selective moral outrage, they have been dead silent in the lead up to today, frankly complicit in giving her and all of these people on the left a pass, and many of them themselves using incendiary rhetoric. The greatest hypocrisy of all today, here is New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Remember when he said this about conservatives living in New York, if they're pro-life, pro-Second Amendment? Listen to what he says.
Who are they? Are they these extreme conservatives who are right to life, pro-assault weapon, anti-gay? Is that who they are? Because if that's who they are, and if they are the extreme conservatives, they have no place in the state of New York. Because that's not who New Yorkers are.
No place in New York if you're pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. Anyway, he's calling for civility today. Wow. The champion of civility. Take a look.
Good. Is overheated rhetoric, extremism that pushes people to violence. And at the end of the day, we may have political differences, but this is one country. We're all Americans. E pluribus unum, out of many one. And keeping the debate and the dialogue civil is very, very important. And for elected leaders who in many ways set the tone, it is especially important.
E pluribus unum, except if you're pro-life and believe in the Second Amendment. What you just saw is a sad, pathetic double standard in the Democratic Party. This is what I call phony selective moral outrage, false blame. We see it over and over again. So quick to call for unity when Democrats are targeted. But when Republicans are threatened, as they have been for weeks and weeks, they've been silent. They obsess about Trump, Russia, collusion. No evidence, but they ignore Hillary Clinton purchasing dirty Russian lies and disseminating them to the American people to steal an election. Bought and paid for Russian lies, that's ignored by the same media. On the topic of sexual assault, they want a 7th FBI investigation into Brett Kavanaugh. It's called the Kavanaugh treatment. But they're silent, totally silent, the same people missing in action with all the allegations against Keith Ellison. They love Bill Clinton, Spartacus, Cory Booker, and others. The Democrats' silence when Sarah Sanders, Pam Bondi, Kirsten Nielsen are harassed and run out of restaurants. Ted Cruz run out of a restaurant with his wife. Mitch McConnell, a guy banging on his table this weekend. Rocks being thrown through Kevin McCarthy's office window. Violence, threats, intimidation, harassment. Let me tell you what it is. It's unacceptable for anybody. But the left's been silent. We've been outspoken. There is pure outright hypocrisy. They only seem to care when it's against members on the other side of the aisle. Only when they can use it to attack President Trump and bludgeon him. Now, hopefully today, people are beginning to realize what I have been saying, what Rand Paul has been saying. The political climate in this country is getting dangerous. Somebody's going to get killed or worse. We don't want that to happen to anybody. Democrats, fake news, CNN, others, they all could have spoken out when something like, today's bomb scare happens. They should. But they should have also been denouncing all the incivility, all the kick 'em, all the follow them into stores. They're not wanted here anywhere anymore. And this is what matters. In 13 days, we solve our differences at the ballot box. I'm willing to accept that my side can lose. You have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to settle disagreements there. But even after 2016, they wanted to undo an election. And we saw all the corruption and laws broken in the aftermath of the 2016 election. The survival of our constitutional republic depends on law and order, equal justice under the law, equal application of our laws. We must protect the safety of every American. Okay, I'm all for civility. I really don't mind a good verbal debate with people. And I don't care if people call me names, no matter what the differences are. But we need to watch how bad this has gotten. And before somebody gets seriously hurt or worse, I pray that doesn't happen. Now, when we come back, Eric Trump, his entire family has gone through more than anybody could imagine as it relates to this. We'll talk to him. We'll talk to Newt Gingrich, Michelle Malkin. Stay with us. A lot to get to on this busy news night. We're glad you chose Fox. And as we've seen all day, the despicable threats against Democratic politicians. This is very dangerous. We have got to make sure the American people are safe and secure. Should have been condemned by all decent Americans. It's the right thing to do. Donald Trump Jr. tweeting today, as someone whose family has directly been the victim of these mail threats, I condemn whoever did this, regardless of party or ideology. This crap has to stop. I hope they end up in jail for a long time. Joining us now with reaction from the Trump Organization, the son of the president, Eric Trump, is with us. It really does bring into focus, Madonna, I dream an awful lot about blowing up the White House. It really does bring into focus the things that have been said about you, about your entire family, a severed head of your father. Listen, your father is outspoken, iconoclastic, and he fights for what he wants, and he takes people on. Very different from what Maxine Waters has been doing, or the month-long getting in people's faces and confrontations with women and children, though.
No question about it. It's very different than Eric Holder. I mean, I thought your opening monologue was beautiful. And, Sean, these people should be hunted down and they should be thrown in jail for a very, very long time. It's that simple. It doesn't matter which party it is. Hey, last year I had white powder sent to my house. Don had white powder sent to his house. The white powder literally blew up in my wife's face, right? And the FBI and the Secret Service, they caught the guy and they threw him in jail. They need to do the exact same thing to this person. They need to hunt this person down. They need to throw the person in jail, and they need to throw away the key. Because honestly, the lack of civility is unreal. This isn't the country we are. This isn't who we are. There are many Democrats, who are, and Republicans. They're all great people. The vast, vast, vast majority of people are great people. They don't want this nonsense. This isn't right.
I've watched the horrible things said about your sister.
Yeah.
I've watched what your younger brother, Barron, has had to go through. I watched the most vile things said about Melania, who is, a wonderful woman. Sure. I've gotten to know her personally. Forget about the president. He's in the arena. Like you, I've had white powder sent to me and other threats far worse than that.
Yeah.
And I really sympathize with what these people and organizations are going through today, because I've been there. But the reality is most of them have been silent with Maxine Waters in the lead up to this, and Pam Bondi, Secretary Nielsen, Sarah Sanders, Ted Cruz and his wife, Henry Kissinger, Mitch McConnell, 4 instances for him, and the latest this weekend, Kevin McCarthy having a boulder thrown through his office window. They've been virtually silent on these instances.
Not to mention pickup trucks that are being torched in parking lots at rallies and so many other things. I mean, how hard is it just to say that this is not right? that everybody condemns this regardless of what political side you're on. Everybody condemns it. And these people deserve to be in jail for a very long time, and this doesn't represent a political party. I mean, how hard is that to say? And, you know, you see some of the kind of diatribes that CNN went on today and so many of the other news networks went on today, and it just further deepens the divide that does not need to exist, because this has nothing to do with the good people of this country.
You know, and it's funny, they're so upset that your dad, I believe rightfully, calls out fake news. Sure. We have watched for almost 2 years, well, beyond 2 years if you take the election into account, that every second, every minute, every hour of every day, they just trash your father, say anything they want to say, and then when they called out, for example, they always gave Hillary a pass. They gave Obama a pass. They're attacking your father with conspiracy theories and lies about Russia for 2 years, and they're wrong. Your dad calls them out for being fake, and they are, and somehow they're going to equate that to a call for violence. That is total BS, and they've got to know that.
There's no question about it. I mean, they're all for the First Amendment until you say something that they disagree with, and then they're no longer for the First Amendment. And, you know, it's why Twitter, it's why social, it's why these rallies. I mean, I was in Houston the other day. My father had 22,000 people in the audience. He had 50,000 people outside. It's why it's been such a powerful tool for him, because he can talk to the American people and he can cut through the nonsense. And think about the coastal media, Sean. You know this better than any human being in the world, but it's controlled by a very small group of elitists. They don't like him. They don't like his message. They got it wrong. They never said he could win. They didn't think he could win. They gave him a 1 point, in terms of the New York Times, they gave him a 1.9% chance of winning on election day. And now they're doubling down. They double down again. And so it's that hypocrisy. I mean, they don't want my father to be right. You know, they want to do anything they can to use anything against my father. And Sean, I say this all the time, they're going to get it wrong again. I mean, they're absolutely going to get it wrong again.
What's your take on the midterm? I see Republicans, I believe they'll hold the Senate. It's a harder read in the House. I do believe that everything is in play, and it's all going to be about turnout.
It is about turnout. And if the army of Trump gets out there, we will win. If people are complacent, they stay at home, I don't think we will, right? I mean, the army of Trump has to get out. And I hear it all the time, Sean. Well, my guy's Trump. My guy's not on the ballot. I go, you can't think that way. You have to get out. You have to vote. If you're not voting Republican, if you are not voting Republican, you are effectively voting against my father, and you have to get out. I mean, the country is doing so well. Our economy is doing well. I mean, just everything about our nation.
We know what the Pelosi agenda is. They want to impeach your dad. They want to keep Obamacare disaster. They want their crumbs back. Sure. They want open borders. Sure. And, you know,
and they want to double your taxes, Sean. They want to double your taxes, and they want to fight law enforcement. They want to abolish ICE, and they want to do so many other things. This country is on fire. It is doing so well, and we have to keep Republicans in power.
You know, it's a weird position to be in, that they almost have to cheer for America to do as bad as we did in the Obama years so they can get their power back. And just the opposite has happened. We've had 2 years of amazing prosperity. What I'm arguing, Eric, is if you vote for any Democrat in any district in the House, you're voting for Pelosi. If you don't show up, that's a half a vote for Pelosi. And if you vote for any Democratic senator, you just might as well vote for Chuck Schumer, because that's what you're getting.
Yeah, no, that's 100% right. I mean, they would rather see America fail than my father succeed. I've said that for years. They'd rather see America fail than my father succeed. And
that's sad.
Republicans have to get out there. You have to vote, and we have to keep on winning for this country.
13 days from tonight, we'll be giving out the results right here on the Fox News Channel. All right, Eric, good to see you. Thank you. When we come back, Ed Henry will have the latest on the investigation into today's mail bomb scare. Also, Newt Gingrich, he'll weigh in on all of tonight's breaking news. Also later, Michelle Malkin. Stay with us. We've got a lot of news to get to. All right, joining us now with the very latest on the bomb scare from earlier today, Fox News Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry is with us. Ed, what's going on?
Sean, great to see you. In fact, breaking in the last few moments, the FBI has confirmed that a second suspicious package was sent to Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters out in California. They caught it actually before it ever reached her office. It's at a mail sorting facility in downtown Los Angeles that at this hour has been evacuated as they try to get to the bottom of it. All of this coming as the president vowed tonight the full weight of the federal government will be coming down hard on the suspect or suspects, declaring the safety of the American people is his highest priority. The president saying no expense will be spared to get to the bottom of this. Multiple law enforcement agencies on a manhunt tonight to get to the bottom of this. Now, the Secret Service's usual mail screening procedures blocked a suspicious package from being delivered to the New York home of former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. That kind of started all this off. A nearly identical package had been addressed to the Washington, D.C. home of former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. Nobody hurt, but officials say they appeared to be live explosive devices, so the NYPD immediately started taking more proactive steps. Then this morning, CNN's New York Bureau, all the surrounding residences, offices, restaurants, businesses at Columbus Circle in Manhattan evacuated after being targeted with a similar package. A federal law enforcement official telling Fox tonight that there are several similarities to a device recovered Monday at the home of billionaire Democratic donor George Soros. The working theory at this hour is that an individual or group is behind all of the packages. The package that was sent to CNN's mailroom, you can see, had excessive postage and packaging, all red flags, and the fact that the stamps were licked also points to likely DNA that will be collected. The president jumping on this today. Watch.
We're extremely angry, upset, unhappy about what we witnessed this morning, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Now, while officials have not been able to figure out a motive, I mentioned Democrat Maxine Waters said today that she was targeted. There's now a second package that was sent to her. So with all of the targets being individuals or groups that the president has attacked verbally, Democrats are already trying to point the finger of blame at the White House. Rush Limbaugh suggested today these attacks were actually false flags by the left, trying to frame the president, essentially, while Hillary Clinton called today for the country to come together. Remember, earlier this month, she said Democrats should not be civil with a party that she said was trying to tear away what she cares about, Sean.
All right, Ed Henry in Washington tonight, joining us now with reaction, author of the bestseller, Trump's America, The Truth About Our Nation's Great Comeback, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. You know what we're seeing, Mr. Speaker, that if it seems the left, if it's about Russia collusion, it doesn't matter only if it's Trump collusion, not Hillary paying for Russian lies. If it's about sexual assault or harassment, it's only if it's Kavanaugh or hurts a Republican, but not if it's Keith Ellison or maybe Cory Booker, an allegation against him. You know, and in this particular case, all the outrageous rhetoric and conduct we've witnessed over the last month and since Trump has been president, I think a lot about blowing up the White House, et cetera, severed heads. It seems that they only care if it's against them and not Republicans or the president. Do you see that same pattern?
Well, sure, the pattern's there, but I thought Eric Trump was close to perfect in the way he outlined the situation. Look, we believe in the rule of law. We believe in the rule of law at the border, which is why we're concerned about the caravans. We believe in the rule of law in terms of our internal politics. Anyone who engages in an effort to use violence in this kind of a setting should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. We have to send a signal to every crazy person who's out there and every extremist in both sides that this is not tolerable. I don't care who you target, whether it's Steve Scalise, the Republican whip who was shot, or whether it's somebody getting a bomb in their home. We have to come together as a country and say, we're going to have huge fights over policy, but we are not going to tolerate lawbreakers, starting with people who literally threaten the lives of other people. And I think whoever's doing this, the president's exactly right. We have to track them down, lock them up, and we frankly should make an example of them. They should get the maximum penalty under the law to send a signal.
We've seen the rhetoric, Maxine Waters and so many others. We've seen all the confrontations. People run out of restaurants. You know, women run out of restaurants. We saw what happened to Kevin McCarthy and Ted Cruz and his wife, Pam Bondi, Secretary Nielsen, Sarah Sanders. You don't see the same intensity if it's a Republican.
No, because the elite media doesn't feel the same affection. But I would make the same argument. I think somebody who trespasses in a restaurant, as they did against Mitch McConnell and his wife Elaine Chao that night, they should be prosecuted for trespass to the fullest extent of the local law. I think somebody who, the people who went after Kevin McCarthy should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We have to reassert that the rule of law is paramount. It's what makes us the most unique country in the world. And people can have strong language. They cannot have strong actions. And I think we cannot tolerate this stuff.
But we can't have people saying, if you see them, you follow them into department stores and restaurants and grocery stores, and you tell them they're not wanted anywhere anymore. That's what we've been hearing.
Look, I think it's perfectly appropriate to say to Maxine Waters, are you prepared to admit that what you said was wrong? To say to Hillary Clinton about the comment the other day, are you prepared to admit that that was wrong? To say to the former Attorney General who said kick them when they're down, are you prepared to say that's wrong? I'm all for that. Yeah. But I'm also for establishing a really life and death decision that we, and then by the way, this is exactly why I feel so strongly about the border. We have to reassert the rule of law in this country. We have to mean it, and we have to go after people who violate it.
Mr. Speaker, you said this election, 13 days, 2 weeks from tonight, people will be watching the results come in. And I'm sure many in this audience don't want to hear the word Speaker-elect Pelosi or Senate Majority-elect Schumer. You've been saying it's about Kavanaugh, caravan. I would add to that, also about mobs that we've been witnessing. And I'd add one other thing. Are you better off than you were 2 years ago? Because by every objective measure, we are better off economically and security-wise.
Look, I think the theme of jobs, not mobs, is a good one. I'm going to give you a surprising idea. Okay. We are more likely to have 57 Republican senators than we are to have Schumer as the majority leader. That's how big the opportunity is.
And are you confident? I'm less confident about the House 13 days out. Why are you confident?
Well, I'm very confident about the Senate. I think the Senate, basically, Mitch McConnell is going to be the leader. The House is still a fight. I like what Kevin McCarthy has done. I like his proposal to have a vote on strengthening the border. I think that every single day I watch, we get better, we get stronger. Barbara Comstock is now stronger in Northern Virginia than she was a week ago. I see this everywhere I turn around the country. We are gaining ground. People are coming home. And frankly, a lot of folks who weren't sure are looking at things like 7,000 people in a caravan coming north to try to attack the United States.
It's up to 14.
And they are deciding that the Democrats are just plain wrong.
If we had, think about this, Mr. Speaker, if we actually had the wall built, we wouldn't have this issue on either side.
Sure.
You know?
Look,
all right, Mr.
Speaker.
2 weeks from tonight, we'll be talking about those results. You're either going to have a total victory, maybe split decision, or you're not going to be happy. The American people have the power to shock the world again. All right, when we come back, speaking of that migrant caravan, now as it grows to 14,000, making its way through Mexico towards the U.S., Sarah Carter was down and just returned from Guatemala. She'll join us with Michelle Malkin. That's next. Stay with us.
When our country is assaulted by thousands and thousands of people marching, and they openly say, we're going to go into the country. We can't do that. We can't do that. Can't allow that. It's unfair to you, but it's also unfair to thousands and thousands of people that have gone through a legal process. Some are waiting on line 10 years. Everything is perfect, and they don't get in, but other people just march right in. It will not happen. You watch.
All right, that was the president tonight in Wisconsin, continuing to stress for border security. Joining us now with reaction, CRTV host, it's an award-winning show, Michelle Malkin Investigates. Michelle Malkin, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. She just returned from the caravan in Guatemala. You were reporting last night, Sarah, that in fact you did see MS-13 gang members infiltrating this caravan in spite of people saying no. How do you know they were MS-13, and what else did you see?
Well, some of the people within the caravan were actually tattooed with MS-13 markings.
Well, that would pretty much give it away, I think. Yeah,
that would give it away. Yeah, it wasn't the majority of people, though, Sean. But what I can tell you was that the majority of people that were in the caravan and the people that I interviewed on the ground there were men. There were a few hundred women. This was the tip of the spear, as I call it, on the border of Honduras and Guatemala when the second big wave came through. So I was right there as the second big wave crossed into Chiquimula, Guatemala, and they were making their way through Guatemala, through the migration services, as well as the Guatemalan defense personnel that were on the ground and law enforcement. There was little they could do. Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua have basically a system set up like the European Union where people with papers can travel back and forth freely. One of the things the Guatemalan government did do while I was down there was tell a number of the people, look, we have buses. The United States is not going to let you in. You are in for a treacherous